everyone. Welcome to the podcast that is less Andy Johnson and more Andy Carroll. It's the big man up top.
Yes, I'm Joe.
And I'm Ed. How are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, good, Ed. Oh, it's the best time of the year, isn't it?
Well, I think so.
Football just every other day.
You mean the Christmas period?
Sure, yeah. But there's midweek football on this weekend.
Yeah.
I think it's just the best.
Well,
it's
this is it. It's the flip side of the fixture congestion conversation. Is that actually for the rest of us, just football all the time?
You don't mind it. I think it's when the Amazon Prime Premier League games come on. You know, this is it.
This is it. Yeah, exactly. It's what we all want to see. Are you feeling Christmassy, Joe?
I bought my Christmas tree this weekend, which is quite early for me.
Yeah.
It was fully the wife's thing. Yeah. But we put that up yesterday. Lights everywhere. My road seems to have gone hard on the exterior Christmas lights this year.
We all need a little bit of cheer in our week, I think, don't we?
Are you an exterior lightsman?
Oh, yes, but just subtle ones. You know, just around the edges of the roof, etc.
Okay, I like that, yeah.
I've got my Christmas jumper on,
You
Joe.
do, don't you?
Yes.
I describe it more as a winter jumper.
Yes,
I
it's
think.
just, it's very subtle.
It is subtle.
But it's, it's I'm giving off that Christmassy vibe.
Well, you look very warm.
I am, very warm. Lots to get into this week.
Yes, it's a packed show today.
Packed show. But should we start with our trivia?
Let's do it. I'm asking you the question this week. So this is Bible Ballers, where I'm going to ask you a question, Ed.
Yes.
And the answer to this question is the name of a footballer, and their first name is the same as a book in the Bible.
We've kind of lost track of the score at the moment.
I think so. Yeah.
I think maybe it's sort of 7-4, 7-5, something like that.
Something
we'll work
like
this
that.
out for next week. We'll go back and count them.
Yeah, you can do that.
But the thing to remember is that I'm definitely losing.
I think you've upped your game recently, though.
I have recently.
You've done quite well recently. We'll see how you get on this week. Are you ready for your question?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. In 2016, which goalkeeper became the oldest ever Premier League winner?
Who won the league in 2016?
I'm not going to tell you that.
No, well, so that wasn't the Leicester year. I think that was 17-18, wasn't it?
No comment, officer.
Oh, no comment. So, was it a City reserve goalkeeper? There was no book of Scott Carson, was there?
Not to my knowledge.
No. I'll have to have a think about this one, Joe.
Oh, well, I'll give you the rest of the episode to have a think, Ed.
Wonderful stuff. It was a big weekend in the Championship, Joe.
Was it now?
It was, yes. Wins for Sheffield United.
Okay.
Looking really good at the moment. Burnley, who beat Stoke away from home. I mean,
tough place to go, isn't it?
It really isn't these days, but never mind. Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough winning as well. Three goals again for them. They love scoring at the moment. Leeds United lost away though, Joe. And the thing is that they're sort of the story because everyone's expecting them to do better than they are doing.
They've got a very good squad, haven't they, Leeds?
Yeah, and I'd say they're stuttering in their bid to go back to the Premier League. And the big thing is for them is getting points away from home. They're doing okay at home, but they're struggling away from home. But I think the big story in the Championship is Frank Lampard.
Yes, back to management.
Back to management. The BBC said it was now or never for Lampard going back to Coventry. What do you make of that, first of all?
I think I agree. I think we don't really know how good a manager he is, really. He's had quite a few strange jobs. He did really well at Derby in his first managerial job, then got the Chelsea job, probably a bit too early in his career. No one really expected him to do well, but he did an all right job. Then went to Everton in quite a bad situation, then back to Chelsea for a weird interim period. So I think this is the first time he's kind of come into a job where he can just be himself as a manager and find out his style, I guess.
And I think it's fair to say they'll give him time. He's not got that sort of looming threat of we've got to save us from relegation, etc. Although, they are under the cosh a little bit, Coventry, and their fans, do expect them to do better than they have been, but he'll get given time. And he started with a point at home to Cardiff, a last-minute penalty to salvage a 2-2 draw. He said after the game, "I'm not here to criticise the players after 2 days. I'm pleased with their character to get the result we got in the end. We take the point and move on."
Very good.
Very, very diplomatic. Speaking very well, I feel.
Well, yes.
The other sort of big story, I think, in the Championship Was Luton losing again?
Not having a good season, is he, Rob Edwards?
No, struggling. But crucially, and this is where I think it could all start to unravel quite quickly, Rob Edwards firmly blaming the players after this one.
You shouldn't do that.
Well, exactly. He was quoted as saying, "People have got to fix it quickly, otherwise they won't play," he told the BBC. "The plan was good, there was a good performance there, and we should have come away winning the game, but we've made 4 massive errors individually, and it's cost us a game of football again." Edwards then went over to acknowledge the travelling fans at full time, but said he would not apologise this time because that's not on me. So, firmly throwing his players under the bus there.
That sounds like a manager that is losing the dressing room very quickly.
Yeah, I think so. And also, you sort of have to say, well, if your players are making mistakes, then something about the way you play means that they are making mistakes. And maybe it's just a lack of confidence, maybe it's decision-making, whatever it is. But you, as the leader, have to surely take responsibility for that and say, look, whatever's going on, don't know what's going on, but whatever it is, we'll sort it out together, not chuck your players under the bus like he has done there.
Yeah, he's very much done that. Do you think there's a bit of an expectation as well going into this season that Luton are just going straight back up?
Well, possibly a bit of complacency there. But I don't know, I tend to find with a lot of teams that go down into the Championship from the Premier League is that they either are sort of destined to bounce straight back up or they're destined to get relegated almost immediately again and do a Wigan or whatever it may be. Do a Wigan, exactly. But yes, in other Championship news, I didn't put this on the plan, Joe.
Oh, you're catching me off guard, Ed.
But a bit of Championship representation in the Puskas Awards.
Oh, go on.
So I don't know if you saw it was from last season, Jayden Philogene, now at Villa.
I do remember this goal.
He scored for Hull and it was a sort of a Rabona from a very tight angle. Now, look, if you've not seen it, just Google it. You'll find a million videos of it. It's a great goal, but...
and it's a big but.
It's a big but. It took 2 deflections on the way in. And
that's not okay.
To the point where Sky Sports had to have a discussion about, was this his goal or was it an own goal? It's very hard to actually say because it was definitely going towards the goal when it left his boot, but it also took 2 fairly hefty flicks on the way through.
It doesn't go in without a deflection.
Well, that's the big question. And so there was a discussion about whether it was an own goal or not. I just don't think you can put a goal with even 1 deflection nominated for a Puskas Award. I don't know about you.
I think I'm inclined to agree with you, Ed. Of course, there was FA Cup action this weekend as well.
There was. I didn't catch any of it, though. Did you?
So I caught a little bit. The main story here is probably Tamworth. They beat Huddersfield in the last round. This weekend, they played Burton away, and they won on penalties.
Fantastic.
So flying the flag for non-league football.
Very good.
Also, Leyton Orient beat Oldham 2-1, thanks to a last-minute equaliser in normal time by their goalkeeper.
Oh, you can't beat that.
You can't beat. We spoke last week about how we love it when goalkeepers go up.
It's just the best thing. Goalkeepers in the penalty area. I feel giddy like a child if I'm watching a game, and it doesn't even have to be my team. If I'm watching a game and the goalie comes up at the end, there's a part of me that goes, "Oh, here we go."
It's very exciting. Well, Orient's keeper Josh Keeley scored in the 90 plus 9th minute.
Oh, what a winner!
To send it to extra time. And then
not a winner then.
Not a winner.
No, okay.
Not a winner at all, an equaliser. And then they scored a last-minute winner in extra time as well, Ed.
Goodness me.
So a great day for the Orient.
Great day for the Orient. We're gonna touch on League One shortly because we've got a special guest coming up later on, Joe.
Oh, yes.
But should we look at the Premier League?
Let's do.
What was the big story from this weekend, Joe?
Well, I think there's no doubt about the big story this weekend, Ed. Liverpool flying high at the top of the Premier League.
The smile on your face, the smug smirk on your face while you say that is...
What a week it's been. What a week it's been. Big win over Real Madrid in the week, 2-0, and then another big win yesterday. And they just looked all over City
Well, this is what I was going to ask you. Is this result about Liverpool playing really well, or is it about City having a nightmare?
I think it's a bit of both.
I think it's a bit of both, isn't it?
I think, it's interesting now. I think... Obviously, this is City's 6th loss out of 7. But I think Liverpool knew that they were there for the taking. I think I've never gone into a game, Liverpool against City, so confident that you can win. And it never looked in doubt. It was 1-0 for a lot of the game, but they seemed to control the game really well. Arne Slot has a real ability to control games. Even when City had more of the ball in the second half, it just felt like Liverpool were more in control, which is quite a weird way of watching a football game. But yeah, very good win.
And I feel like the thing watching City is why this is so alarming. I think was quite stark and evident in this game particularly, because City have not been great. Obviously, they've not been good at all. The results have not been good. The performances have not been good. But I think this is the first time where you've sort of gone, City are a level below Liverpool at the moment, and they were really trying their best and still failing by some distance.
They were really poor, and I think it wasn't just the style of play. There was individual errors that you're not used to seeing. We saw this against Feyenoord in midweek, that Guardiola made quite a big error. He was dropped for this game, and again there was just some big errors at the back that led to the penalty for the second goal, and it's just not what you're used to seeing from Man City. And I wonder if Guardiola's so known for tinkering and pulling tactics out that no one's thought of before, but I think he's massively overthought this one. He swapped his goalkeeper, which is quite a big decision.
Quite a big move, yeah. I wanted to ask you the question, do we think that Pep is losing it? And I say this with genuine concern. We touched on mental health and well-being a couple of weeks ago. Pep seems to be showing some erratic behaviour at the moment, doesn't he?
He does, and I think this is more than a blip. This is turning into a bit of a crisis. And I don't think he knows how to cope with it. And yeah, I just wonder who's kind of journeying this with him, because actually this is a big deal for him. Yeah,
definitely. Well, whether we hope City turn this around or not, I think we can both agree we hope that Pep is all right. Touching on teams that did well at the weekend on top of Liverpool, Arsenal.
Yeah,
playing really, really well.
Arsenal
getting a great
looked really
result.
good in this game. Ødegaard makes such a difference to that team. Just kind of links together with Saka really well. But yeah, they went 4-0 up in the first half, and you thought that was game over. But West Ham got 2 back, and you thought there's a bit of jeopardy here.
Yeah,
I think this season's actually been really good in that you're watching games that seem to be over, and then suddenly there's a bit of drama that making it more interesting. I think we've seen this quite a lot. Actually.
Just appears from nowhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Speaking of teams that scored quite a few goals at the weekend, Man United won 4-0, Joe. What on earth went on there?
I have no idea. It just seemed to be quite good. I have quite a few United friends who are like, I don't like this. I feel quite uneasy that we look quite good.
And let's remember, it's a home game against Everton.
Yeah. They're a bit of a shambles at the moment.
It's also one game, so we'll reserve judgment, but interesting early signs.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah, and I think Everton are in a bit of a weird space. They've got this impending takeover. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Dyche went as soon as the owners come in. I think they're going nowhere at the moment, aren't they? There's no signs of upwards movement, and I just don't know where they are at the moment.
I don't know if there's anything else from the Premier League you want to pick up on, Joe. The only thing I wanted to say was about Wolves-Bournemouth.
You weren't happy about this, were you?
No, not happy at all. So Bournemouth won 4-2. Justin Kluivert scoring 3 penalties, a Premier League record, but 2 of them were crucially from the goalkeeper fouling an onrushing striker, a pressing striker. And look, I really don't want to go down the Sean Dyche, woke football nonsense route.
It feels like you're heading that way.
I do feel like I'm the guy that's saying this. Every week we see teams throw away good performances by giving goals away from unnecessarily playing it out from the back and doing it poorly. And I just think that all of those goals are sorted by just more sensible. I'm not arguing for just launch it long every time.
I think what's interesting though, the second penalty, Jose Sarr is trying to clear it downfield, but Evan Nilsson gets in there just before him. And I think for me, I don't like that being a penalty because I don't know what Jose Sarr's meant to do there. He doesn't see the striker coming. He gets in there before him. He's trying to clear the ball, but he takes a player instead.
Yeah, it's still a penalty.
It is a penalty,
still
but
definitely a penalty.
I don't really know what the keeper's meant to do.
Yeah, well, I think what they're meant to do is to work on their entire game. Going back to the goalkeeper, in my opinion, should be a last resort.
Sure.
Rather than thinking of it as a deep-lying centre-back. So one thing I wanted us to touch on, Joe, was the sad news at the weekend of Fiorentina midfielder Eduardo Bova, who collapsed on the pitch during Fiorentina's game against Inter Milan on Sunday. He is in intensive care. The match was suspended after the incident in the 16th minute and it was later abandoned. we've seen this a couple of times with players. Yeah. I always think of Fabrice Mwamba. That's the one I remember quite vividly. It's obviously just horrible for everybody involved, fans and players and all that sort of stuff. There was a couple of players who came out and expressed support for him after the game. David De Gea, former United goalkeeper, posted on X simply "God please" with a prayer hands emoji. His parent club Roma said, "One of us, we are all with you." The official Serie A account posted something similar, and I think we just wanted to echo those good wishes. We really are, praying in this situation that he makes a full recovery.
Yeah, there's not much to say there other than our prayers go out to them. And there's a growing awareness of this kind of thing as well, that especially since the Christian Eriksen stuff during the Euros, that clubs are becoming more and more aware, more prepared to deal with these kind of things. And obviously, we pray for him, we pray for the medical professionals around him as well, that they manage to diagnose what's going on and full recovery.
I've brought a guest into the studio today.
I can see.
Hey.
They're sat right next to me.
UCV2 Samuel Ball, how are you?
This is an honour. Thank you, chaps.
Oh, wonderful. Well, start of all,
Yes.
Lower Leagues, you're a Port Vale fan. How are the Vale doing? We've spoken a lot about the Vale in recent weeks. What's going on down at Vale Park?
Yeah, well, we're flying high. After last season, which was an absolute disaster, where we were just losing games, and obviously got relegated. This season we've been top, have been since I think about October, which is all my years of being a Vale fan, I've never really known us, anywhere near the top. We only scraped into the playoffs the year we got promoted. So, we're top. Really, really good squad, good depth of squad as well. So it's just, I'm really enjoying the football and enjoying going.
And it's just lovely to know that there is at least one team in Stoke-on-Trent where the fans are happy. And well, we've brought you in, Samuel, to the conversation we want to have today is around ticket prices, and we thought, what better way to do that than to bring in a season ticket holder, because neither Joe or I are currently. I used to be down at Stoke. Did you used to be a season ticket holder at Crewe?
I did at Crewe, Alex, yes.
Yeah.
The rivals.
So we've got a bit of experience on this, but Joe, why do you think, why was it important for us to chat about this week?
Yeah, well, I think there's a growing conversation at the moment around ticket pricing. Looking at the Premier League, 19 out of 20 teams have increased their ticket prices this season, on an average of around 7% across each band. And not just ticket prices, there's been this growing movement of getting rid of concession prices. So that's OAPs, that's children. More and more teams are going towards not having those prices, so every ticket costs the same, which is a bit of a problem, I think. I looked at the Nottingham Forest pricing structure. This is all information I found on the FSA website. They increased their prices this season by 20%.
Gosh.
Which is a staggering amount. And just looking at some of the numbers, they also moved their... they haven't got rid of concession tickets just yet, but they moved their age band from 16 to 18 for a concessions ticket. So if you're an 18-year-old, last season you paid £190 for your season ticket. This season you spend £850 for your season ticket.
That is astonishing.
Which is, a staggering amount. So more and more clubs are phasing out this concession pricing altogether. And this is rightly causing frustration among some long-time loyal supporters.
Yeah, definitely.
And this was particularly highlighted this weekend for Manchester United. They've become the fourth club to get rid of concession prices completely. This resulted in a bit of a protest this weekend from the fans because United played Everton, who are another club who have done this. Liverpool and Man City have also done this. So at these two games, there was big protests against the owners of the clubs in this move towards getting rid of concession prices.
And in real terms, I think, was I reading that for a child to attend a game at Old Trafford now, it's now £66.
£66 for them to go.
Which is astonishing.
It's a lot of money.
So I think, well, we're going to have a chat about this, with you, Samuel.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about your experience as a Vale fan. Ultimately, we're trying to ask the question, are fans being priced out of football? But let's start with you, Samuel. How long have you been a season ticket holder at the Vale?
I would say roughly about probably 7 or 8 years. I was trying to think about it, but yeah, I would say definitely 7 years.
And what would you say has been the ticket prices across those years?
I would say probably my first season ticket that I bought was about £310. Mm-hmm. It depends where you sit in the stand. So I sit in the stand with the nicer toilets.
Look, who doesn't want that?
Fair play.
and you've got to spend about an extra tenner for that, I think, which is nothing over the whole season. So yeah, we have the better toilets and slightly better concourse. But yeah, I remember paying £310, but it's gone up. Everything has gone up. And we're not a Premier League side, of course. We're League Two, hopefully League One soon. So you've got to take that into consideration. But where we're at the moment, I currently pay £350.
Okay.
So if you kind of think, I think about £310 I paid back in whenever it was 7 years ago. I'm now paying £350. It's not a lot.
That's not a huge increase.
No.
It's sort of, a slight increase over time, but that's not too bad, is it?
No.
And how do you feel about paying that much? On one hand, it is quite a lot of money, but compared to what you're getting for that, how do you feel like in terms of value for money for you personally?
I think it's great. I think it's really good. I mean, last season when we got relegated, it was a tough season, and actually I paid $350 then, and they froze the prices for this season, I think to entice a few more people to pay, because it is tough when you drop down from League One to League Two. The standard of football isn't going to be the same, but those frozen prices were greatly received. I think it's really, really good value.
Yeah, I think so too. And what about other prices involved in supporting your team? So away tickets, travel. There's also like stuff like food as well, because it can be a pricey day out, can't it? Especially if you take the kids and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's without going in the club shop. I've got 2 girls. My eldest has come to the games every now and then. Depending on where you sit in the ground, actually, she can get a free season ticket. But in the stand that I currently sit, she can have a season ticket for £30. That's like £1.30 a game, which is amazing. But also, we do have that concessions. I think my father-in-law paid £280 for his season ticket in the same place that I was. But yeah, I think from last season to this season, food prices have gone up, but then the quality has gone up. So we've had a lot more choice. We just had pies before, where you have hot dogs and cheeseburgers and all these kind of things now. So you do pay a lot for those things. But we are one of only a few grounds where you can actually still take things in. So I can bring a bottle of pop with me. Some grounds, when I go away, I can't even take a bottle of water in without taking the cap off. But in terms of prices, travel, that's not free. I've only gone to, within an hour and a half games, you'd probably be paying about £14 to £16 on the coach. And an average ticket is probably about £26 away. So add that together, then you're adding food. It's expensive. It is.
And that's it, and there's a cost of living crisis and all of this. But I think, and actually to give props to my club, Stoke City, I think that's one of the areas that we've done really well in the last sort of 10, 15 years or so, is that ticket prices have generally stayed very competitive. When we were in the Premier League, we had the cheapest season tickets for many of the years that we were there. The club still subsidises away travel, so fans can go on a free coach to all away games. I think similarly with food, it's a very similar situation in that the standard has gone up. Yeah. We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, Joe, weren't we? I go for a chicken catsuit curry and chips, which is
not right.
It's not right. And yes, you do pay a little bit more for it, but it is so much better than paying £6 for a miserable burger. Joe, the question I had for you is that one I said at the start. Are fans being priced out of football, do you think?
I think they are, but I think it's more than just being priced out. I think there's this kind of disconnect between owners and fans. The way this is meant to work with price rises is that owners are meant to work together. Every club kind of has this supporters group who are in constant communication with owners. But that's not happening with this move to get rid of concession prices. It's kind of being imposed, and almost like this is happening. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to pay. They're not rewarding loyalty here. There's a disconnect there. I think if you look at an owner, what's more valuable to them? Is it a fan that's going every week like you do, Samuel? Or is it a one-time visitor who's willing to pay high prices and is probably going to go to the club shop? If you're an owner, you're looking at that and you're thinking, I'm going to get much more return on that fan than a loyal fan. So there's a real disconnect there of what's happening.
And I think part of it is that thing of how do we see our football clubs? It's that thing of, are our football clubs part of the community or are they businesses?
Yeah.
And they're both ultimately, but some are sort of weighted one towards the other. I think ultimately people just want value for money. I think.
Yeah.
Do you think, Samuel? This is a big question. Do you think football fans these days get value for money?
Ultimately, for me, it comes down to what you see on the pitch. I'm happy to pay a little bit more of my season ticket if that money's going into the club to get better players, and we've certainly seen that this season. Ultimately, you can have the razzle and dazzle of, I know Stoke City do a light show and things like that, but we're not going to go into that.
We're not going to go into that, no.
And that's great, but actually, why have I bought my season ticket? It's to watch those players and my team fight and play for that badge, and that's where it comes down to. So if the money's going into that, fantastic. And another season ticket or kind of a pass that I have is like a theme park, and if you go to a theme park and there's no rides open, are you getting value for money? No, but if I pay a little extra so you can invest in those rides and get them on, then you're probably going to do it in the long run.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, though. Are you paying to be entertained, or are you paying to invest in that club? There was a conversation I read with a West Ham fan, and they almost felt like the club's owners were almost gaslighting them in saying that we need you to spend more money if you want the club to be able to compete in the league. So I think it's a fine balance of, are you paying for entertainment? Are you paying to invest in the club? And actually, yeah, I think it's difficult.
And it is difficult as well, because you can totally understand at a lower league club somewhere like Port Vale, where actually you think, if I spend a little bit more on my season ticket, or if I buy an extra thing, then you can feel that getting invested back into the club. And yet, as you get higher up the pyramid, you start to then think, well, actually, this awful thing I've just bought from this Man United furry dice from the club shop, what is that money going to? And if it's going to add an extra 10 grand a week to Garnacho's salary, you think, yeah, but is that worth it? Because the money involved at that higher level, it starts to just become a drop in the ocean, doesn't it? As Christians, does our faith have anything to say on this topic?
I think there are a couple of things that we can say about this in terms of faith. I think you can draw some parallels between a football club and a church in quite a few ways, but in this particular...
Fancy light show?
Yes, please. Dodgy burgers.
Bad coffee. Anyway,
we could go on. I think both of these things are almost communities, aren't they? We had a really great chat with Morgan a few weeks ago about how he felt invested in his club as a community.
Yeah.
And when something goes wrong, he really felt that. In terms of finances, I think there's similar parallels here. We are told in the Bible to tithe, to give money to a church in our community. And I think it's kind of similar, isn't it, that you are investing in this community that you are in. It says in Philippians 2 verses 4, don't look out for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. And I think that's quite relevant here.
I think, well, yeah, and that's it. It's investing in the community, investing in others around you. And I think people don't mind doing that, not just Christians, but anybody, if they can see, oh, okay, my money's going to this, they kind of don't mind it. We are taught, Samuel, aren't we, to have good stewardship of our own personal finances as well. As a family man, how do you sort of think about what the Bible says when you're thinking about whether to renew your season ticket every year?
Yeah, it is tough, and it has got tougher, having two girls and having a remortgage meeting a few days ago, and you're thinking, it puts everything in perspective. The Bible says where your treasure is, there is your heart also. And I need to, when it comes to the weekend, okay, right, whether I'm going to go to football on the Saturday and then got church on the Sunday, it is finance, but what do I want to invest more in? You mentioned about tithing. Am I going to give more to the church, or am I going to give more to this football club? Which one am I looking forward to most this weekend? And that's a tough thing as well. But yeah, being good stewards, I don't think anyone would say, don't go and buy a season ticket, don't go and support your football club. No. But everything in moderation, and if it means in the future I don't have a season ticket, that's fine. At the moment, it's okay. I budget for that. But yeah, it's not going to be the same for everyone.
Exactly. And, at a certain point, This is what I've been trying to do, is get my children into football so that I feel less guilty about dragging them with me. And I think you're right. And Jesus spoke a lot about investing. It was quite important. We're not to just hoard wealth. We're to invest it in others, but also, to invest it in good causes as well. So I think there is a lot to take from the Bible, albeit it has very little to say about Arsenal season ticket prices or whatever it may be.
Yeah, sadly not.
Sadly not. Last question I wanted to ask you both on this. What can we as football fans do about this whole situation? Because a lot of this is something that's out of our control. It's the clubs are making decisions. We're actually going to chat more about this in a future episode from the other side of the argument, from the argument of the clubs and what they have to do to stay afloat and all that sort of stuff. But what can we do as football fans in this situation? Joe, I'll start with you.
I think I struggle to see how things can change without a mass protest. We started to see this at the weekend. But thinking back to my club, Liverpool, back in 2016, there was conversation around rising ticket prices. And what they did as a fan supporters group, they walked out before the end on a certain minute, emptied the stadium. What followed there was a 6-year freeze on ticket prices. So that's where you've seen that an action you can have makes an impact on the owner's decisions.
And I think it's interesting that you touch on that Liverpool example, because all the Liverpool fans walking out at a certain time or turning their back on the pitch or whatever it may be, those kind of gestures, whilst they're powerful, actually doesn't affect the coffers of the club one bit. You've already paid to go in. So for Liverpool to actually see that and to go, okay, we hear you, because these clubs wouldn't be anything without the fans. We saw that during COVID. So, it is important for fans to have their say. Samuel, what do you think about this?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's about having a voice, and it's a lot easier in the lower league clubs to have a voice. Supporters clubs are amazing, where you can have those discussions about season tickets, and a price of a regular ticket at Port Vale I think is about £25-26. If you can't commit to a season ticket, is £26 too much? Should that be looked at? And then the supporters club hear those, collate those kind of bits of information, and then they have active communications with the owners. And if your club is blessed, like ours is, with great owners, they do listen. And communication's a great thing as well. But it's about having a voice.
I think you're right. Lower league clubs are actually really good at this, and they put on fan forums as well. And I think the more we can go along to those kind of things, as people with faith as well, to be in that space is a really good thing to do.
It is so much more of a larger chunk of the pie, isn't it? For City, they can always just get a bigger sponsor or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I'm using them just as a flippant example there. But I think you're right. The more fans can have a voice, the better. Samuel Wall, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Will you stick around for the rest of the podcast?
Oh, I think so.
Lovely stuff.
Well, Edward, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I've completely forgotten about this.
About the
quiz. Can I have Samuel help me?
Oh,
don't get me involved.
I guess so.
What was the question again?
The question, I will read it to you again,
yeah,
because you've asked so nicely.
Don't you normally?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. In 2016, which goalkeeper became the oldest ever Premier League winner?
So honestly, I cannot think of who won the title in 2016.
2016.
I'm assuming
that's the year I got married.
Yeah.
Who won the league that year?
Got a clue? I followed Port Vale. I don't follow all the big teams.
Yeah.
Quite a famous league win.
It wasn't the year that Gary Lineker was on the telly in his pants, was it?
Could have been.
Oh, there you go.
See, I thought that was 17-18.
So was it? Can I chuck out an answer?
Please, yeah.
It's not, what's his name? Hart, Joe Hart.
There's a Book of Joseph, isn't there?
Is there?
Is there a Book of Joseph?
Oh, yes, but yes. It's to do with Bible books, isn't it?
I don't know if there is a Book of Joseph.
Oh, okay. See, that would be Bible.
Am I allowed to Google who won the league in 2016?
No, you can't.
Because I'm now panicking. Hang on a minute. It was 15-16, wasn't it, Leicester? Who would have been Kasper Schmeichel's understudy?
Do you want another clue?
Yeah, please.
So this player...
I'm happy for you to not give me a point on this because I've struggled a lot.
No, I'll give if you get it right. Okay. This player won back-to-back Premier League titles.
Oh.
With 2 different clubs.
Oh, his eyes have lit up.
Okay, I think this is... I remember reading about this. Somebody who maybe won it Chelsea to Leicester, is that right? I'm really struggling to come up with names here. I literally can't get Scott Carson out of my head. And it's not him.
Gonna have to rush you here, Ed.
Yeah, let me Google something.
No, you can't be Googling.
No, I can't. I'm going to have to pass. I can't.
You can't pass.
I
You have
can
to give
pass.
an answer. Samuel, give an answer.
Tim Krul.
Tim Krul. He says Tim Krul with such a dejected
It's because I know
look
it's
on
wrong.
his face.
I can't be here all day.
Oh, Ed. Yeah, it's not Tim Krul.
No, I know.
Afraid. It's Mark Schwarzer.
Oh, come on.
Come on, 43 years old. He won back-to-back Premier League titles.
He was
with
at Chelsea, wasn't he?
and then Leicester. Now, this was a little bit cheeky, Ed, because in neither season did he make enough appearances to win a medal.
Oh, dear.
But he was part of the squad.
Yeah, no. Listen, I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You know, I always remember. Did Scott Carson get a medal at City?
I don't know if he did.
But I remember that being a big story that he was part of the team and all that sort of stuff. So, no, look, I'm happy with it. That's difficult.
Good.
I thought I was difficult. Get in touch with us, podcasts@ucb.co.uk. Let us know how you're doing. Am I just really bad at this quiz?
I wouldn't like to say.
No, okay.
Maybe you have a question as well that you'd like to send in to us.
Please do. We had one a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
Yes.
From Jack.
Jack, send us another.
Send us more questions, everyone. That would be fantastic. That is all we've got time for. Thank you for listening to The Big Man Up Top. Thank you, Samuel Ball, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Ed.
And if you want to get in touch with the show, ping us an email to podcasts@ucb.co.uk. Please follow, subscribe, give us good reviews, all that stuff. This will help us to get the word out. And if you've enjoyed this, tell your mates. Also, huge thank you to our producer, Anthony, who somehow has to take this and turn it into tangible content. For all his hard work behind the scenes, there will be a new episode next Tuesday, won't there, Joe?
I think so.
See you next week.
See you next week.